Hi, my name's Kevin, and I'm recording this video for the Real Schizophrenia. I just want to share some of my issues with schizophrenia. First, I'd like to talk about what I experienced through the course of my illness. Second, I would like to talk about the stigma of being on disability for a mental illness. Third, I would like to talk about the effect on my social life. And finally, I would just like to share my experience with the difference between stigma for mental illness and empathy versus physical illness. So, to start with, my symptoms include audio hallucinations, thought disorder, delusions, and visual hallucinations. Um, the most dramatic is probably the visual hallucinations. Most people have seen the movie The Beautiful Mind, and they saw that John Nash saw people and places and interacted with things. That's not how it is for most people. When I was first getting ill, I would drive past a dumpster, and every time I drove past the dumpster, I was sure that I saw someone hiding behind it that ducked down. The third or fourth time that this happened, I went, stopped the car. My ex-wife was very confused, and I looked around the dumpster to, see why someone would be hiding back there. I've seen a wolf on the side of the road. I've seen snakes on the streets. I've seen a large cat leaping at me. But you see it, you react, fight or flight. You can't help it, and then look around and it's gone. It's very confusing. Um, so this is quite dramatic. Somebody might see you jump or scream in a social setting and not really know what's going on. Um, but it generally passes pretty quickly. The auditory hallucinations are a lot rarer for me now with medication, but it could be somebody saying my name. It could be someone talking to me, and I look and there's no one there. I generally keep track of if there's anybody in my house, so I know if I should be worried. They've belittled me sometimes, but mostly it's just someone talking nonsense. The delusions, I've had a couple. The one that impacted my life the most was for a period of 6 months. I had these memories of my mother not feeding my sister and I when my dad would go out of town for training. I never talked about this with anyone, but as you can imagine, it caused me to talk to my mother and treat my mother and have different feelings for my mother for a long time. And it wasn't until I had been on medication for quite a while that this delusion began to unravel. And I cried and cried because I realized for the last 4 months of my grandmother's life, I barely talked to her because of something else that I am 98% sure was a delusion. Um, Now, the thought disorder involves something called thought blocking. Um, Especially, this happens to me, especially when I'm in a crowded place. People tell me that I'll start talking and I can't finish my thought. Um, and I'll start talking again, and it's on a completely different subject. My writing from some of the time when I was not on medication is just nonsense, really. Uh, and it's not good. Now, in terms of being on disability for a mental illness, I have experienced a lot of stigma for that. Before I was sick myself, I did not begrudge anyone being on disability, but, excuse me, I did not realize sometimes how people were affected by their illnesses. I, myself, I've gotten a lot of comments about being on disability. And first of all, people think that it is some kind of welfare hammock that you lay in. And I don't think people realize that know me now don't know how hard I worked to achieve what I did up until the point where my illness was undeniable and I had to seek treatment. I was always an achiever. In high school, I was the captain of the swim team, captain of the academic team. I did very well in the state academic competition. I achieved a 32 on the ACT. I was an Eagle Scout. I went to engineering school on a full scholarship, graduated debt free with a departmental award, high honors, and in the Engineering Honor Society. I worked a series of jobs. I changed jobs frequently because I was sick, but I didn't really know it. So I would be very offended, I guess you could say, kind of delusionally offended about certain things or suspect that they were getting ready to get rid of me, and so I'd find another job. Um, when I finally got sick, it was in 2008. My employer had unfortunately been unable to continue to pay for long-term disability insurance. Um, I think my ex-wife started the application for Social Security disability based on the results of several hospitalizations and psychological testing. It was awarded in a fairly short time frame, and I've been on it since. The first thing I want to say about working with a psychotic disorder is people really don't want to be around you when you're symptomatic. I've been fired. I've tried to work as a janitor, a diet clerk in a hospital, a substitute teacher, and it's never worked out well. I'm able to seem mostly normal as long as I take medication, and I found that stress is a large trigger for me. Um, but these jobs, they've ended. The longest one lasted 6 months. Um, I probably could have sought remedy for at least one of them under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but for $9 an hour, getting a job and fighting to get a job back that you could barely stand isn't really something I think anyone would want to do. So to this day, 6 years in, I'm still on disability. My therapist and my psychiatrist tell me that I should keep my disability benefits, and I might be able to return to work when I get over the age of 40. Psychotic disorders tend to mellow out a bit as you age, and I didn't know that. Okay, so the difference between having a mental illness and a physical illness, I have something called Ehlers-Danlos. It affects my skin and my joints, some other things too. So I have several other doctors besides a psychiatrist. People are much more empathetic and understanding about the issues I have because of Ehlers-Danlos, because it's physical. When I was about 30, my left knee lost a lot of stability, and I started having to wear a large, locking, rigid brace on my left knee. And people treated me very differently. When I said I was on disability and was open about it, people didn't question or give me that look or, the eye roll like, yeah, right, why are you on disability? And honestly, I still get a lot more support and empathy for that. And the ironic thing is, it limits me and what I can do. But as far as impacting my vocational training, it doesn't have that large of an impact. I could work despite where my genetic problem has taken me. And people don't realize how disabling the psychotic disorder is. So, I'd like to touch on the medication for a second. There's been a decrease in the stigma around depression, and people are open about taking antidepressants. Um, the the thing that people don't understand is a lot of people have taken, psychiatric medication for depression and anxiety. They've never taken an antipsychotic. They don't realize that the medicine itself can be just as disabling or more disabling than the illness it's supposed to treat. I've been on 20 milligrams of Zyprexa before in my life, and it slowed me so much that I couldn't participate in conversations. I slept 15 hours a day. I gained about 50 pounds. 60 actually, I think. Um, so, it's not easy to take these medications. People think that if you just take the medication, you're fine. For 60% of people, you either get really good results or okay results that allow you to, more or less live your life. The other 30% of people that I've met on medication, I really don't know what it does for them other than give them really bad side effects. Um, you know, it was originally called a major tranquilizer. I think it was originally used more to sedate people, not sedate, but unless you've taken it, you can't understand that when it hits you, you just shut down. All you can do is sit there. Sometimes you can't even stay awake. Um, I have been physically restrained, and I would prefer physical restraint without a large dose of Haldol over just getting a shot of Haldol and not being restrained. Um, you know, some drugs I take, and every night I would cry because it produced such strong dysphoria in me. Um, and that's probably one of the last things I want to say. The most hurtful thing to me about the illness and the diagnosis, and it still bothers me to this day, is how many friends just turned away and forgot that I existed once I was diagnosed and was unable to work. I thought they were good friends. I had helped them, do many things. Hung out, saw most of them at least once a week, and the support just vanished. But I guess I can say the friends that I have now, I know that I can trust all of them, and I'm glad to have them in my life. So again, my name's Kevin, and I recorded this for the Real Schizophrenia. And I hope you enjoy watching, and I hope you learn something from the others that make videos. God bless and goodbye.